Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunburst Sanctuary, and thank you for braving the elements to be here today. We have a little bit fuller temple than I thought maybe we would have. I want to say a special welcome to our friends, the Lawler family, who are here today. Matt and Finn and Kai and Elle. And Brooke's not here because she just had a baby on Friday. And we're so thrilled. We're so thrilled. Little Van West Lawler. Is that correct, Matt? Yeah. So congratulations, and thank you so much for bringing all that joy to this group. We really appreciate it. Well, once again, welcome. And my name is David. And the topic today for Sunday service is the power of prayer. And I wanted to begin by reading something from Paramahansa Yogananda. And I'm pretty sure that everyone knows who Yogananda is, but I do see some faces that I'm not familiar with here, so maybe not, so I'm going to say a little bit about him. Paramahansa Yogananda was a man from India who came to the United States in 1920 to bring the teaching of Kriya Yoga meditation to the West. And he stayed the rest of his life here. He really committed himself to trying to help the people of the West understand the deeper truths that lied within them and to be able to use the great tools that he had brought with him. And while he was here, in the 30s, maybe in the 40s, I think it was in the 40s, he wrote the book Autobiography of a Yogi. And if you're familiar with that book, then you know how wonderful it is. And it was the story of his life and the journey that he had finding God through many adventures as a young boy and as a young man. And that book probably had more impact on the planet, definitely on the West, in terms of introducing people to spirituality. And the founder of Sunburst, Norman Paulson, was a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. He lived at the ashram of Paramahansa Yogananda in Los Angeles when he was a young man for about 5 years. So Sunburst is really influenced a lot by Yogananda, and you're going to hear lots of things about Yogananda if you hang around here. So this is one of the things in the vast volumes of literature that Yogananda put together that he wrote about prayer. He said, prayer is a demand of the soul. God did not make us beggars. He created us in His image. The Bible and Hindu scriptures declare it. A beggar who goes to a rich man's home and asks for alms receives a beggar's share. But the son can have anything he asks from his wealthy father. Therefore, we should not behave like beggars. Divine ones such as Christ, Krishna, and Buddha did not lie when they said we are made in the image of God. Yes, we see that some people have everything, seemingly born with a silver spoon in their mouth, whereas others seem to attract failure and troubles. Where is the image of God in them? The power of Spirit lies within each one of us. The question is how to develop it. In the past, you may have been disappointed that your prayers were not answered, but do not lose faith. In order to find out if prayers work or not, you must have in your mind an initial belief in the power of prayer. I have to say that for myself, this idea that I'm a rightful child of God, or some days that I feel more like a beggar. It's just the way that it is in this world. It's not always easy to feel that supreme connection that we have with our Divine Mother and Father. It's wonderful that we, the people in this room, have at least been nudged in the direction of asking questions of, well, what is really going on and who am I really? But there's so many people on the planet who suffer their entire lifetime believing that it is just them against the world and that they really are not connected to a higher source. I guess one of the things that we can really do to help the plight of the planet is to say prayers for compassion, and prayers for tolerance, and prayers for people to find relief from their suffering. And if we think about all of the different cultures around the planet, prayer seems to be a very common thread. And everybody might believe that they're praying to a different deity or to different forces, but there is one source, and it doesn't care what name we put on it, but it is a divine intelligence that has projected us all here, and our connection to it is more real than the reality of this world that we live in here. This world has been described as a dream in comparison to the world, the spirit world, which all of this is projected out of. I wanted to talk a little bit today about a gentleman whom I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and his name is David Alexander. And he was a neurosurgeon, a man of science. And he was very, very smart. And his view on consciousness was that consciousness is generated by the brain. And that was the world that he had been educated in, and that was where he had come from. And in 2008, he contracted meningitis, and bacterial meningitis, and in fact E. coli meningitis, which is very, very rare. Sometimes it happens in children that are under 3 months old, but for an adult to get it, it was just unheard of. And he quickly, within just a few hours, went into a coma. And the doctors looked at the results of his blood, and they realized that he was doomed, that there would be no way, by his blood work and by the fact that he went into a coma so quickly, that he could possibly come back from this and live what they would consider a meaningful life. And so they gathered the family around, and they talked about it, and they put him on antibiotics to just see if they could get him to survive. But there was a 10% or less chance that he would survive. Well, in the meantime, while all of this was going on, he found himself in another realm. And he had no recollection of who he was or where he had come from. He had amnesia of his life here on earth, which is unusual for a near-death experience. Most people remember who they are. They remember people from their life, but he couldn't remember anything. And he went through, he was in the coma for a week, so he went through what to him seemed like years of experiences in the spirit world. But time is very different there. And he was told that he had to go back And to him, he didn't know what going back even meant. He thought it meant going back to the first place that he found himself when he found himself in this other realm, which was kind of a thick area that was kind of gross and dense. It wasn't scary necessarily, but it wasn't real enlightening. And from that space, he had gone into a higher realm, which was this beautiful valley, and with all kinds of wonderful beings. And he mentioned puppies. So, just like it was so delightful, all the things that were going on there. And he started to just love it, but he had no reference to earth, so he wasn't really even sure about what that was, but he just was so full of love. And then he went to a higher realm, which he called the core, and in that realm, he was really given deeper understanding about his connection with Spirit. But he kept going back and forth between these different worlds. And there was a song, a vibratory song that would, when that would happen, it would kind of lift him out of this lower realm and into the upper realm. And he found that when he was in this lower realm, if he just remembered kind of the tune of that vibration, it would bring him into the higher realm. But then he was told, you have to go back. And he found himself down in this sort of lower realm in the spirit. And he knew that he was going to be okay because he was told by a spirit that he encountered there. She said to him, you are deeply loved and cherished forever. You have nothing to fear. You will be taken care of. And so even though he was in this area where he wasn't really connected to others, he really had internalized that in his soul, and he knew that he was going to be okay. But he still wasn't sure what he was supposed to do, and he was trying to get back to that higher realm, but he couldn't. For the first time, he was trying to use this rhythm, this song, this vibration to raise himself back up, and it didn't work. And then he started seeing faces, like a handful of faces that he didn't recognize. And then he was surrounded by thousands of robed spirits, and they had their hands were like this, and their heads were bowed, and they were praying. And he could feel their prayers. And that those prayers, even though he was not in that higher realm, those prayers were connecting him energetically to that higher realm. And that is the power of prayer as he experienced it in the spirit world. That even though we're not there, we're not experiencing it firsthand, that through devoted prayer, we're able to bring the energy of that higher realm into wherever we are. So one of the faces that he saw in his vision when he was in this place was a young boy, and he didn't recognize anybody because he had no recollection of his previous life. And this young boy turned out to be his 10-year-old son. And his 10-year-old son had been hanging around the hospital, but as so many times the case is that as the adults were talking about what's going to happen next with Eben, he was kind of left out of the discussions. And as I mentioned in the beginning, they gave him a 10% chance of recovery, or not of recovery, just of survival. Well, on the 7th day, I think, they said it's been reduced to a 2% chance. And so they were deciding that they were going to take him off of the antibiotics and just let him go peacefully. Well, his 10-year-old son heard this. The adults didn't know that he was listening to them, but he heard it. And he ran down to the ICU where his dad was, and Eben's eyes were taped shut, and he pulled the tape off and lifted his eyelids up, and he said, "Daddy, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay." And of course his eyes were like just going in different directions. He was just not there. But Eben, in this state that he was in, he could feel that draw from his child. And he didn't know who this was, but he was just, through the magnetism of love that was happening, he knew he had to make his way to wherever that was. And he fought his way there. And he said it was the hardest thing he's ever had to do. So I believe on the 7th or 8th day after he had gone into the coma, he woke up, and everybody was shocked. And within just a little while, he was sitting up, and he was just looking at each person who he didn't recognize and saying something to the effect of, "Everything's going to be okay." And then he'd look at the next person, "Everything's going to be okay." That was his message. That's the message he brought back from where he had been. So it turned out everything was okay in his case. It took about 3 months for his brain to completely heal itself, but during his coma, the E. coli, or the meningitis, had completely ravaged his neocortex. So he said it was probably this form of horrible disease that he had. It really had to be that way for doctors later to take him seriously, because they had scans of his brain. And from the scans of his brain, there was no way that he could possibly have had any consciousness at all. This was not, it ruled out the idea that he was having some sort of hallucination, because all the parts of his brain that could hallucinate were just gone. They were soup. But then they also were healed after he came back. And so the people who he had seen in his when he was in that space, the faces, they were family members who were sitting with him. They were other people who were praying for him. And I tell this story because, and there's many, many other stories like this. I just heard another one last night from one of the brothers. But there's people who go into the spirit world and their bodies are so sick that there's no way that they're ever going to make it back into that body and have a productive life. But when they come back, they are instantly healed of the problems that they were having. And so I would say that is the power of prayer. That not always is it meant to be that a person will be healed, but sometimes through the power of prayer, we can attract and draw those healing energies, and they really can have an effect on the physical bodies here. It has to just be completely connected to the grace of God, because most people do not, this is not the case. But in Eben Alexander's case it was. And ever since that, in 2008, he's written 2 books. One of them, the first book, is The Proof of Heaven, which I'm sure many or some of you have read. And he has lectured extensively. And he can really talk the language about the scientific side of it and the spiritual side of it, because he was a neurosurgeon. He really knows his material when it comes to that. So the power of prayer is real. And in those, what could be considered extreme examples, people are miraculously healed. In Eben's case, I have to believe that it was just this, it wasn't a prayer, it was just this sincere, deep love that his son had for him that drew him back. Because he didn't even know where he had come from, but it drew him back in to his body. A few years ago, I met a gentleman who had gone through a really difficult divorce, and he was really bitter and had hard negative feelings about his ex-wife. And that went on for a few years, he told me. But then eventually, for some reason, he was inspired, excuse me, he was inspired to start praying for her, to start praying for his ex-wife. And he said as soon as he did that, then his life started to turn around. He started praying for the person who he was so upset with and who he probably felt had been the source of so much of his pain. But when he put aside all of the acrimony and the animosity, he started praying for her, then he started getting the things in his life that he wanted so much, and which was mostly peace, the deep peace that comes. I was thinking about prayers, and I thought about when Jesus was in the garden at Gethsemane, and he knew that the soldiers were going to be coming for him, and he knew what was going to happen. And like anybody in a human body, that's not something that anyone would want to go through. And the prayer that he said was, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." But then he added, "Yet not as I will, but as you will." And I really like that because it's not a demand on Spirit, which if anyone could make a demand on Spirit, it would have been Jesus in that moment. To him, it was more important that the divine will be fulfilled. And I'd like to try to incorporate that as much as I can, or more and more, into my own life. Not my will, Father, but thy will. Not my will, Mother, but thy will. And one of the favorite prayers that I like is just a recognition that Spirit is the doer of everything, and that in reality we are the tools that Spirit works through. And our job here on the planet, through prayer, through devotion, through meditation, is to make ourselves available to be conduits of that divine love that comes directly from Spirit and that has created all that we see. And the more we do that, and the more and more people around the planet who do that, the higher the vibration of the planet will become. And it's hard right now to look at the planet and believe that things could get better, but they will get better. They must get better. And that's the work of light workers. It's the work of seeking souls soul travelers. That may be the greatest work that we have being on this planet, is to become pure conduits of divine love. Let us try to remember that we are not beggars, but we are the divine offspring, the representatives in human bodies of Divine Spirit. And let us take that understanding into our silent meditation and sit up straight. And with the devotion of our heart and the focus and the concentration of our minds, let us relax and open up and become aware of the divine birthright that we each have. And to not doubt it, to never doubt it, but to believe those words that Eben brought back, that we are loved and cherished forever, and we will always be taken care of. And to let all the fear of our little self-conscious minds drop away, that we might receive the divine illumined consciousness that awaits to come forth in each one of us. I'm going to share a few more closing thoughts. I hope everyone had a nice meditation and continue to meditate if you'd like while we close out the service here. One of the other things that Eben Alexander, when he came back from his journey in the spirit world, he said that the only way that he could describe this consciousness that he had been exposed to, and what he called it was, he said, Aum, A-U-M. And he had no exposure in his life to Eastern philosophies at all. And the sound of Aum or Om is obviously very prevalent in Buddhism and Hinduism, Eastern religions. But he had no understanding of that, but he said that that was what pervaded his consciousness, was this vibration of Aum. And so he referred to that consciousness as Aum. He said God, the idea of the word God seemed very, he used the word puny to him. It wasn't encompassing enough. But this vibration and this sound that permeated inner space said it all for him. And we know, some of us, some of you may have even heard the inner sound of Om or Om, and that it's the vibratory field of creation that is vibrating at the smallest of all places and at the largest of all places, all at the same time. It's vibrating creation into existence at the smallest place of all places. It's vibrating and sustaining creation at all levels. And God just permeates all of life. We can't escape the consciousness that brought us here. Nor do we want to. We can make ourselves available through quiet time and through walks in nature and through inspiring discussions. We can make ourselves available for the awakening of that vibration within us, because it's already there. We are already in possession of the thing that we sometimes think we are seeking. We are only seeking to awaken, to just wake up to this wonderful pearl that we have within us. The founder of Sunburst, Norm Paulson, he was a very special man for anyone who knew him. And for some people who didn't know him have had experiences with him after he's passed. But he would speak in very simple terms sometimes. He would say things like, if you're feeling negative, go sweep a room, go use a broom, or dig a ditch. He said, negativity can't stand hard work. And then he'd say, and if you dig a ditch, make it square. Make the sides square. Because again, negativity can't stand things that are in order. Very simple teaching. And I remember him saying, if you reach up to God with one hand, God will reach down with two. We're in a symbiotic relationship with our Creator. This awakening that we seek, probably Divine Spirit wants to see that awakening happen more than we do many times. I know for myself, I can't stand to see my children suffer, any of them. And we are the divine children of the Creator. And that consciousness wants us to be happy and fulfilled and at peace and able to help to the fullest extent while we're here on this planet. Let's do a 2 or 3 ohms together. And as we're doing it, really concentrate on and feel the vibration of your own, the sound of your own voice and the sound of everyone in the temple. Feel it going inward and penetrating to the deepest part of who we are, to our soul, and connecting, because we are connected through that vibration and through that vibratory field. And we can feel it together. And that is the joy of being together and practicing together. You are welcome to follow me in a closing prayer. Divine Spirit, our Mother and Father, might our lives be a daily invitation, inviting you to join us, to participate in your creation, to enjoy it as you intended. We are so grateful for the lives you have given us and for the love of one another. Might we carry this forth wherever we may go. Amen.
Seek Him in the morning, seek Him late at night. Seek Him in your meditations on His brilliant light. And when at last you find Him, never let Him go. His love, it is unending, it will grow and grow and grow.
Carry His love inside you like water from the well. It's precious and it's holy and it's not too hard to tell. that when he comes upon you like a waterfall of light, if you live for him in the daytime, he'll carry you away at night.
Seek him in the morning, seek him late at night. Seek him in your meditations on his brilliant light. And when at last you find him, never let him go. His love, it is unending, it will grow and grow and grow.
One that was with you before you had a name. His love, it is unchanging, it will always be the same. He's always been your lover, you know, he's always been your friend. He was with you in the beginning, and he'll be with you in the end.
Seek him in the morning, seek him late at night. Seek him in your meditations on his brilliant light. And when at last you find him, never let him go. His love, it is unending, it will grow and grow and grow. How much do you love him? How much do you care? To find him and to know him, nothing can compare. So give yourself unto him, give your life away. You'll find it all returning like the sun that grows brighter every day. Seek him in the morning, seek him late at night. Seek him in your meditations on his brilliant light. When at last you find him, never let him go. His love, it is unending, it will grow and grow and grow. And when at last you find him, never let him go.